Welcome, everybody. This is the Harrison Goodall Preservation Fellowship 5 Years and Counting webinar. Today, we have with us an alumni list of previous fellows and our current fellow to talk about their experiences in the fellowship and celebrate the 5th year of this fellowship. We also have with us Harrison Goodall, the founder of the whole thing. So we'll go through and learn about all the fellows and their different projects and have some times for question at the end. If you have any questions that come up during, just you can put it either in the chat or in the Q&A. We'll be sure to field it then. And we are recording, so we'll send out a recording of this at the end. My name is Natalie Henshaw. I'm the Director of Historic Trades for Preservation Maryland. Through Harrison and Preservation Maryland, this fellowship is made possible. So, perfect. All right. So, Dr. Harrison Goodall, he's on with us right now. In 2020, he founded this fellowship to help promote innovation in the preservation field and help create and foster projects that had a lasting impact on the profession and help fellows develop their own career trajectories. Harrison, I'm wondering if you would like to speak a little bit to why you wanted to found this fellowship, what inspired you?
Yeah, I would like that very much. Once again, how do I get to see everyone?
We'll do that at the end. Right now, we have a slide up of you and information about you.
Oh, okay. All right. It's well, this you're catching me at about the end of 50 years or so worth of an absolutely great adventure, an adventure that I could never have even thought about that it would have happened. And the result of it is that it created within me an incurable disease, and the disease is passion and passion for preservation. And it has been accumulating over time. And the thing that I just felt important was to be able to share this passion with you. And I hope all of you catch this passion and catch this disease and go on and do good things as it relates into the field of preservation. I am so pleased to be here and have you here and to have the committee and Preservation Maryland sponsor this program.
Thank you so much, Harrison. And yes, founded in 2020, height of the pandemic, it was a crazy time and it's changed a little bit over the years. Initially, there were two fellows each year, and eventually it went to one. And as you mentioned, there's a committee that reviews all the applications and scores on it to decide on the fellow. Um, Harrison, can you say more about the committee? Why did you want it to not just be you making the decision, and who did you bring into the committee?
Oh, so, yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Um, the committee members now are Stephanie Toothman from the Park Service and Catherine Wanson, who was with the Park Service for a long time and is now on her own as an individual consultant, and then Lisa Sasser, who was also involved with the Park Service. And these to me are just good friends that I had while doing work, a lot of work with the Park Service over a long period of time. And it just seemed like a logical thing is to inquire about how to put together this thing called the fellowship. Uh, and because as I mentioned before, it did wondrous things for me. It got me so excited that decades worth of applications and things that I was doing, it just grew on each other. And And I think that's something that is needed within the field of preservation, as well as within many fields as well. The passion just keeps you going, and it certainly got me going.
That's great. And everybody on the committee, knowing them, they appreciate innovative preservation. So I think they were all very good fits for this to help promote that.
Well, yes, and it's a team, but we're all working together toward the same thing. Yes.
Yes. Well, thank you very much, Harrison. We have our current round open. The applications close March 16th. So if you want to be on this panel in future years, put in your application, tell us about your innovative project, and the committee will review it. And hopefully we'll be talking to one of you. So now we're going to go through each of the different fellows that have been able to join us today. I'll introduce them and let them speak about their project. First up, one of our first fellows is Christopher Cody. There we go. Christopher,
Well, hello, everyone, and thank you so much for having me here today. And thank you, of course, to Harrison, who is the reason why we're all here and why I get to share this fantastic story about an important chapter of my career. When I was the Deputy State Historic Preservation Officer for the state of Arizona, I became very concerned about demolition by neglect, especially in Arizona's rural communities and our certified local governments. It can be a really challenging problem, as everyone knows. And I discovered the brand new at the time Harrison Goodall Fellowship, which provided me with a very unique opportunity that I would not have had in the course of my regular work, to have a structured opportunity to really research this issue in depth, and develop a set of recommendations for Arizona. It was a very valuable project in terms of both my producing scholarship, which is still being used in Arizona today. As a matter of fact, just last week, I heard that some of my work's being referenced in a draft bill about demolition by neglect. And it's something that, as I've continued throughout my career, I've been able to share the fruits of my research with different communities, both initially as Deputy SHPO out in Arizona. And in my current role, I'm currently Senior Associate General Counsel for the National Trust for Historic Preservation, and we regularly get inquiries asking for our assistance with matters related to demolition by neglect. And I continue to lean on the research that I did during this fellowship and disseminate it around the country, as a component of what I consider best practices in this area. So it's something, an opportunity and a study that is going to continue to bear fruit for me professionally for the rest of my career, and that I think just continues to get spread around now the country, and continues to be of use in Arizona. So I'm very grateful to have had the opportunity to develop this knowledge about this really important area and issue in historic preservation, and specifically historic preservation law. So that was my experience, and I had a fantastic time and appreciated the guidance and mentorship that I received during it, and couldn't think more highly of the experience overall, and I'm very grateful for it.
that is so exciting that it's being used in a bill. That's such great. And, now, several years later, that's so
Yeah,
exciting.
draft bill. We'll see. We'll see.
Okay,
There are a lot
okay,
of draft bills out there, but the fact that it's
okay.
still that people are still talking about it out there, I mean,
Yes.
I hope it's useful. That was always the goal.
Absolutely. That's so exciting. So Chris has a page on our website. If you go to historictrades.com or .org, pardon me, /Goodall, you can find this picture and click on it and find that project and that information. So to your point, it's still out there and useful if you guys want to find something, a way to use it like they are in Arizona and other draft bills. It's there for you to use. Great. Okay. Thank you, Christopher. So Christopher was one of two that year. Our other fellow that year is Sarah Stratt, who was not able to join us. So Sarah did non-destructive technology for seismic damage in historic Adobe. In their role with the National Park Service, they worked in a lot of remote areas, the Channel Islands National Park, and tried to find ways that after seismic events, you can detect damage to the Adobe. Adobe does require regular maintenance, and so sometimes it's hard to tell what's a superficial crack or what's a very structural crack. She created a whole guidebook to test the application of infrared thermography, pardon me, and using studies to detect this. It's a whole toolkit, so it gives you guidance on how to go about doing it, the equipment that you need to do it, and then the information to gather. So it's a full field manual for it. Harrison, you were involved in this project more than I was. Is there anything else about Sarah's project that you'd want to add or make sure people knew?
No, I don't because I have not really had any conversation with Sarah, but I think it brings a level of science to preservation and one that I find exceptionally exciting and revealing.
Yes, yes. And both Christopher and Cody and all these, or Christopher, Cody, and Sarah and all these fellows, we do a recording at the end where they go through their project and speak on it. So in addition to actually getting the field guides and the manuals and the project results, you can see them present on it as well. So those are on their pages too, and you can watch both of theirs and hear Sarah talk about her own project too. Great. And so the next year we also had two fellows. Benjamin Curran was one of them. So for 2021, we had Benjamin Curran and Stephanie Phillips, who will be up next. Benjamin Curran did sea level rise monitoring. He had over a decade or more of preservation education experience teaching at community colleges, as well as getting a master's in preservation education and a real focus on how climate change impacts historic resources. So in this project, he built a accessible monitoring device and trying to make it low cost so that different communities could actually measure that sea level rise. Um, and again, he has a page on our website with all of this, as well as the information and the tools to buy that. I think it was around $100 worth of materials that you can use to measure that. So you can go to our webpage and find that information, see if you can make your own as well, um, and see how he built it and how it measures. Great. Thank you, Adria. That link is in the chat for everybody. Okay. And with us, we have Stephanie Phillips, our second fellow from 2021. Stephanie, do you want to speak about your project?
Sure. Hi, everyone. So excited to be here with you all today. I am the Senior Program Manager for Deconstruction and Circular Economy at the City of San Antonio Office of Historic Preservation. My project in 2021, which I can't believe it was that long ago, but it helped inform and interrogate the relationship between historic preservation and the circular economy, which in the built environment kind of takes form as deconstruction, so physically dismantling buildings to recover those materials as an alternative to traditional mechanical demolition, which literally throws whole buildings away. So at the time, there was this immense need for someone to interrogate this intersection because naturally preservationists kind of tend to stay away from this topic because it's not typically included in traditional preservation practice. But it was really important for me because we were a year away from ultimately becoming the first city in North America, or the largest city in North America, with a deconstruction ordinance that actually now requires older housing stock to be deconstructed and salvaged instead of demolished if they can't be saved. So this project was a huge precursor to that and actually significantly contributed to many of our talking points and research and data points to actually get that law across the finish line. So it was instrumental. And I spent my fellowship year connecting with preservation and circular economy practitioners across the United States and Canada to kind of distill the elements that really help bridge these fields and, form the emerging topic around circular heritage. And some additional impact to kind of share with you all, in addition to the deconstruction ordinance, which is still a huge deal. We were able to create an actual program in our office. So at the time when I was a fellow, I was still working in kind of landmark review, design review capacity, but we actually created a whole position for me to manage this program and then hired another person to help me. So it's like this very well-established, well-regarded nationally program now, housed in an Office of Historic Preservation, the first of its kind in the country. And then there's been this like cascading effect. We were fortunate to receive a J.M. Kaplan Innovation Prize in 2023, which is a really big deal. We also were able to launch a actual physical hub where we exchange or we recover building materials that are salvaged and then redirect them into affordable housing repair projects and community projects. So we're demonstrating like how the recovery of building materials, if a house can't be saved, can actually be used to sustain the lives of other buildings, right? So they don't have to be demolished. And then another like personal thing that I can go back and attribute this to is in 2023, I co-founded a nonprofit called Circular San Antonio, which is now leading other dimensions of circular heritage and reuse in San Antonio. And we just got done hosting our very first summit focused on circular economy here in San Antonio literally 2 weeks ago. And it sold out and was internationally attended. And there was a really, really big theme running through the presentations and workshops and speakers around the critical importance of adaptive reuse and historic preservation in international circular economy discussions. So it's it this fellowship was game changing and really reserved the time to let me dedicate my research to this topic. So I'm actually, now that it's been like almost 5 years, I'm working on revising the toolkit for republication to kind of show where we're at now, so it can be more widely disseminated and kind of see how fast we can move at this intersection in 5 years when people are actively working on it. So that's my summary.
Wow. You're not busy at all, right, Stephanie?
Now I'm super bored if you can't tell.
Yeah, yeah. Um, that's really fantastic. So good to hear about the summit and the development in your career and creating a position for you. Are you aware if any other cities have utilized it in the same way as San Antonio? Because I know deconstruction ordinances are becoming more talked about, more discussed. I think a few cities have gotten them through. Are you aware if any of those cities cited your work?
Oh yeah, all of them. We receive emails truly once a week from different cities that are asking for guidance on how to steer this forward. And we actually have a meeting with the city of Baltimore in 2 days, and their preservation office is being roped into those discussions about moving their potential ordinance forward. I think I really want to stress like how important it is for this kind of research to be rooted in preservation. Like, I think the lasting impact is that we're able, even if it's like a sustainability office or a solid waste office contacting us, we can stress to them, like, you need to include your preservation community if you're going to be developing a policy like this. So that I think is like the continuing lasting impact of something like this, as more and more deconstruction ordinances pop up in the US. And that's really what I wanted to do is say this is on the horizon. It's going to happen whether or not our field is involved. And this is the means to kind of emphasize how preservationists can lead in this intersection.
Great. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Okay, next up we have Alicia Garsky. She was our 2022 fellow. And Alicia's project was about South Bend Trade Works and creating a field guide for training. Alicia, do you want to speak to your project?
Yes. Hello, everyone, and nice to see you again, my old friends from 2022 through 23, and even maybe a little bit into 2024. I had the pleasure of working with the panelist and Laura from the National Park Service, who is in on this call too. Shout out there. Really, my project was a community project within the town of South Bend, Indiana. We were creating this pilot program that, with the Harrison Goodall Fellowship's help and support, would become a replicable model. And so I had the creation of the trade school as a pilot program as the project with the community. And then the creation of the field school guide, which I believe is still on the website at Preservation Maryland. Natalie's shaking her head, yes. So the guide is that replicable model where I articulate in detail the steps that were involved and the case using the South Bend Trade Works case study, and then giving ideas on how to create your own field school in your own communities. And so that was the idea, is that we would create this trade school that was for high school students at the time, but you could really apply it to really any audience that you would like. In our case, it was high school students. And we did 1 week long field school that was at a historic location that had the 5 core trades we were focusing on: window, plaster, masonry, woodwork, paint. And we did where we had about 20 different experts that came in and taught our students during that week. So it was just kind of like a conference of trade training. And that's so important to not only South Bend community, but nationally. And I believe this is one of the things that really appealed to Harrison and the panelist, was that trades training is something that we need to see more of. And also getting the younger generations interested, maybe just even planting a seed that preservation trades exists. And so that was the goal here. And just give them a sampling of all of these different things, get their hands on and plant the seed, giving these students the idea that this exists so that they could pursue whatever interests them about it after college, or I'm sorry, after high school, maybe when they're trying to decide if they're going into the trades or into college or what their future plans are. So the replicable model, the field school guide, probably it's due for an update. I would say it's been a few years, but how I've taken that in my career is, as an entrepreneur, I am now coaching individuals and even business owners, construction business owners, on how to restore historic windows. So I want to continue innovating the skill set that this program kind of planted in me, which was to hone in on my skill set and then reverberate that out and try to get people excited about and then teach them about trades training, preservation trades training. In my case, it's historic windows. Am I missing anything, Natalie, that I didn't hit on?
I think you hit the major points. And yes, your field guide is still up on the website. And for people interested, it is very specific. You know, you give agendas, you give budgets, you give equipment lists and recommendations and best practices. So it's a very specific. If you want to literally take it and say, I want to plan this, it's all the information you need for that planning. Um, yeah, yeah. And also your recordings are up too. Same with Stephanie. Those are all up on our website. So yeah, yeah. I think the other questions I want to ask you, I want to ask everybody. So I'm holding.
Thank you for
Uh,
having
th-
me.
yes, thank you, Alicia. Okay, so Alicia was our first 20 single fellow year in 2022. And the next year was Molly Baker. So Molly Baker is also unable to join us for this, but she did record something. So I'll play that on the next one. And we confirmed you guys can hear it on this recording. Her project was replicable models for the traditional trades training. Um, it was from a similar, I guess, origin point as Alicia's, where there is this workforce need. And there's not a ton of guidance on how to go about addressing the need. Alicia's is very much a field school and a specific model. Molly worked on gathering models and information from a lot of different types of programs and bringing it into one place to help guide somebody through the process of, what does my program look like? What do I want it to look like? What do I need for that? Um, and that is the Preservation Trades Program Creation Guide that is both up online and like a book form, but there's also a website that you can go to for it. So now go to the video so you can actually hear Molly talk about her project.
Good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity. It's really
Sorry, let me restart that.
great to participate in this webinar today with the other fantastic fellows that are all creating innovative solutions to issues facing the preservation field. First, I want to apologize for not being able to attend virtually in person. Unforeseen circumstances created a change in my schedule, and I find myself in the field today. But I want to just send along a brief recording to express my deep gratitude to Harrison Goodall and the Fellowship Committee. It was such an honor to work with you all and have your assistance as I explored a subject really near and dear to my heart, the preservation trades training realm. Your collective wisdom and encouragement was a great asset during the fellowship and really helped as I developed the program. My work in preservation trades training, serving as the manager of the National Trust for Historic Preservation's Hope Crew program, has taken me all across the nation and to the U.S. territories. And in those travels, one common issue keeps presenting itself, or kept presenting itself, and still does. There is a need for preservation trades training opportunities that are more evenly distributed geographically and available to local and regionally located students. But that is more easily said than done, of course. But that informed my thoughts around what I wanted to use the fellowship time for. I wanted to focus the work of my fellowship on producing a roadmap for the creation of regional traditional trades programs. The culmination of the work is a downloadable guide called the Preservation Trades Program Creation Guide and accompanying website. I'd love to share my screen and share that with you. So the website here, Preservation Trades Training or Preservation Trades Program Creation Guide.com, and you'll find, there's a homepage with information on the mission and why the guide is necessary. There is the elements of the guide and then the guide itself. And this is interactive and downloadable. I can show you here some of the elements of it. So as you flip through the pages, some of these elements include sections on acquiring participants, on having partnerships locally, curriculum, implementation, budget creation, acquisition of insurance, funding suggestions, and an evolving resource list that's not only available in the guide, but also on the website if you go to resources. So again, that all links to a lot of really great resources of programs out there that can help as different regions create their own guide. Stop sharing here. Since the creation of the guide, I've been able to share it out through various means, webinars, in person at several conferences. I've been lucky enough to serve as a consultant as other programs across the nation are trying to get off the ground. And it's been a really great adventure. And I just want to say once again how grateful I am to the fellowship and to Harrison for this opportunity. I wouldn't have been able to explore this subject and create this guide without it. So thank you so much. If anybody would like to contact me, feel free to reach me via email, mbaker@savingplaces.org. Thanks so much.
Excellent. Sorry about that. I was going to mute myself and apparently you've muted the video. So thank you to Molly for recording that. And we're sorry she was not able to make it in person. We're virtually in person for this one. All right. So Molly was our 2023 fellow. And pardon me. In 2024, we had Kateri Lopez. Kateri was also unable to join us, so I'll speak to her project some. She's still actually actively working on her project, and it's preserving Adobe architecture. She's based in the Southwest and works with Cornerstone's Community Partnerships, which focuses on Adobe building, training, education. The idea is to create, again, guides for training, building codes, and everything needed to restore and build new Adobe architecture. And it came from a lot of the wildfires I forget which year, I think 2022 or 2023, a lot of wildfires in the area severely damaged a lot of the adobe architecture, and there was a lack of knowledge and people to help repair it. So this is an attempt to give people that guidance, promote some of that training, and get it more distributed so that they can respond accordingly to these natural disasters and preserve a really important heritage material in the Southwest. Okay, and last but not least, we have our current fellow, Todd. Um, Todd's project is AI visual model for identifying historic properties, and I'll hand it over to Todd to speak to what he's doing currently on his project, and he's anticipated to be done with the fellowship in fall of this year. Todd.
Thank you, Natalie. And hello to everybody. I can't see you on the screen, but I know you're out there. So hello to everyone. And I too would like to thank Harrison Goodall and the committee for this opportunity and also say a big hello to the other fellows. I've seen you guys at conferences and some of you have spoken in classes. And so it's great to see you all again and just take joy in the work that you've done. If you're looking at the slide, you might say, why is he there with a neon tube? And I've been a neon tradesperson for almost 20 years. I was a tube bender for 13, and I've been working for the last almost 6 years on restoring and preserving neon signs. And so as I travel around, a lot of people at conferences go, there's that neon guy, but that's not my project. So my project is that big long name, but we just call it creating a modern digital Sanborn map. And there's another name for it, arepes. And so it's called arepes because the team gets together every Wednesday and we eat arepes together. And so then we've created this acronym, augmented recognition for expedited photographic architectural surveys. And so that's what I tell conferences what AREPES means, but now you guys are in on the secret that it actually means that's just what we eat. Um, and so I would say that, I'm going to go to advice and then come back again. So my advice to everybody out there, I mean, it's been incredible to be a part of this, even though I'm just halfway through, but to be a part of it. And I applied when I was in school. I wasn't, in a profession or anything. I had just gone to school and I went to get my master's because, to be honest, I was trying to save the neon signs and nobody was paying attention to me. And so then I applied for the Goodall Fellowship. And although I didn't get it the first time, they did pay attention to me, which was really lovely. It was a different experience for me. And that has continued to be true about the committee and about Harrison and other people. And the project is going along great. We have a relationship with Discover Denver, who's surveying the city of Denver, 160,000 buildings. They've been working on it for 10 years. They're only a quarter of the way. And so this AI model is going to expedite that, and we're hoping to finish in 5 to 7 years. And we're currently training it on 8,000 data points with 32,000 photographs. And so it should be clear on two styles, architectural forms and styles, which are bungalow and minimal traditional here in Denver. But then after it gets trained, it'll be much, much better. It's doing the architectural surveys right now at about 0.1 second per building. So it's really doing some pretty fast work. And so people have relationships with AI. I have relationships with AI. And so we're not going to have an AI discussion here. But the fellowship has also allowed me to present at conferences on this. And so I presented at ICROM in November, and then I presented at Saving Places just a couple weeks back. And so it's allowed that to happen. And so I would say the beauty of the project is that I think a lot, and if we look at other fellows and we look at a lot of what we face, there's a place where I feel reactionary, and I think a lot of the preservation community might feel reactionary. And I think that surveys are a key to being proactive rather than reactive. But surveys are time intensive, they're labor intensive, they're cost intensive. And so the hope is that this model not only will work for Denver, but it can actually be trained for cities across the country and enable any community to have access to a tool that will allow them to categorize their resources and then prioritize what their plans are. Um, and so I think I would close with, again, I applied more than once. And so I would encourage all of you out there not to be discouraged. There's lots of great ideas and people have lots of great thoughts, and I'm sure you all do as well. So don't be discouraged, keep applying. And I would welcome anyone to contact me either about the AI model, or I'm always happy to talk about neon, as Natalie knows. So thank you all.
Thank you, Todd. I was telling him I'm sad I was at that CPI conference and both had to miss his presentation and the neon shop tour. So there were too many other sessions and events going on, which was disappointing. And Todd, I was not aware that you had applied once before. So I love that you reapplied and got it. And that's a great message for everybody. As yes, we get lots of wonderful applications and don't be discouraged. Apply again if you didn't get it in previous years. Fantastic. So I should have made another slide similar to this with a question mark and like you could be here. I didn't though. So we'll just talk briefly about this upcoming application round. Like I said, it's currently open. Applications close on March 16th. You can find the links for all of that at historictrades.org/Goodall. If you're interested in doing a similar project that is ruffling feathers, towing that line of innovative and reactive, or any of that, we encourage you to apply. We want to see how it can impact the broader field of preservation and also develop your careers personally. On that website, you can read all more about Harrison. You can read more about the fellowships. You can find each of these projects, all these different resources, links to the webinars, presentations, everything. So it is rife with information materials. So now what I'd like to do is I'll actually take it off the share screen so we can see everybody. And we're going to just go through a few questions for the fellows and have them answer about their experiences and impact. And we'll also open it up for questions from anybody attending. So you can put those into the chat and we'll read them off towards the end. There we go. Okay. So I'm
Great.
curious with everybody. Excellent. Um, we each of you talked about kind of the during and the after. Uh, did did your experience match your expectations? Is this what you thought would happen, or did you discover some new things? Did your careers go in a different direction because of it? What do y'all think? Chris, you're off mute. You can start.
Oh, that's what I get for not monitoring the mute button. All
Exactly.
right. Well, I'm happy to share. So I was part of the first class, so I had no expectations or, kind of went in blind. And it was exactly as I expected. I really enjoyed the interactions that I had with not just my mentor, but everyone else that was involved in helping me with the fellowship and getting to talk to Harrison about his career. Um, it it went as I expected. I think my research took me in a different direction than I had expected when I started. Best practice in historic preservation for demolition by neglect ordinances was always that you need to hire a consultant and write a special ordinance for demolition by neglect. In fact, there are all kinds of model ordinances like that out there. And I went into my project right away, understanding that that wasn't an option for some of the rural communities that I was trying to help, where a city staff member might wear 4 different hats: planning director, director of work, public works, all this kind of stuff. Limited resources, they're not hiring a consultant to write a whole new ordinance. So my research took me to focusing on existing building codes and opportunities for historic buildings suffering from demolition by neglect simply to have building code enforcement applied. No new ordinance needed, it's already there. And trying to suggest pathways to make that enforcement easier for historic preservation commissions to recommend, and create more clear pathways for that kind of enforcement, and for communities to have confidence and the political willpower to go about that kind of enforcement. So whereas I thought I was starting a research project to assemble existing model demolition by neglect ordinances and sort of do a digest of best practices and apply it to Arizona's legal framework, what I wound up doing was sort of finding a different way to solve the demolition by neglect problem, without a consultant, without all this extra effort, that I think is ultimately more accessible to more communities than what might be the gold standard if you're doing a demolition by neglect ordinance in New York City. So it was an interesting journey as I worked on that scholarship.
Wow. That's a great answer, especially to put you on the spot. Yeah. Um, Todd, yeah, how have your expectations met reality?
Yeah. And so I would say, I went in thinking that this was a project. And then a lot of what I've gotten from the committee is it's not just about the project, it's about how we develop leaders for the future. And so I sit on four different boards, including an organization that I started, and I struggle in all of them with my role as a leader, in different capacities. Like, I'm too brash in this one, or I'm too, quiet in this one. And so there's been this great conversation with, committee members, specifically Laura, about, how do you develop those skills? Because you have to bring what you've worked on into the world. And so it's great to hear from these other people, Alicia and Stephanie and Christopher, Molly, that they really are kind of living that aspect of the fellowship, which is creating these new leaders. And so that was a surprise to me and a very, very pleasant one.
Stephanie or Alicia?
Yeah, you had asked if it went how I expected it, and then I could probably segue that into today. And I know, just as Todd said, that this is not just a project. It is something that you believe in completely, and you will probably be working on it in some form or another for the rest of your career. It's just how it feels. It's we're coming to the Harrison Goodall Fellowship with our applications on something that we didn't just decide we wanted to do. It's something that we have had some momentum behind us for a while, and the Harrison Fellowship gave us the uh really, for me, I just knew that I had so many people to be accountable to, including myself, but there was more to it than just myself. And so I really put a lot into it, to the point where, and I alluded to this earlier, through a series of changes that happened in my life and career at the time, did take, I think, a little bit longer than the program really allows. And because of that, I was able to put out my very best effort for the replicable model at the time. But it is something that Molly had, somebody had said, where they're revising it. I thought it was Molly in her video, where you revise it periodically. And that did give me the thought it's coming up on a few years for my own, and probably going back to that replicable model, the guidebook, and just updating it for with some lessons that have been learned since then in how my career and life has innovated, and put that back out there, because we are constantly evolving in these ideas that we're building through the Harrison Goodall Fellowship projects.
Thank you,
Um,
Alicia. And Stephanie.
Alicia,
Oh,
may I just add a few things on that? Because I think you pressed the button of looking back at my career along the way, and the two items that I think are important is professional growth. And by running you through some of the projects that you've been involved in some small way, hopefully it got you a little bit more confident about who you were, what you're doing, and what's on the other side of the horizon, what you're reaching for, and making you feel comfortable with yourself in your profession. And by doing so, it increases the profession in general. And thank you so much.
thank you, Harrison. And yeah, Stephanie, how did expectations meet your realities?
I feel like everyone has had such good answers. I mean, I'll just echo a few things that I've heard. Like, I think naturally when you have a time-bound project, you're like, okay, this is like what I'm creating and it's a point in time. But what I loved and continue to love about this fellowship is that there's so much encouragement to be iterative and like progress upon that time-bound project, like kind of what Harrison just said. Like there's a real investment in you as a future preservation leader, which I think is exceptionally unique amongst like fellowships that are out there and what makes it really, really special and supportive. And I just a like quick comment about mine. Similar to Todd, like my project was and still kind of continues to be like a little bit of a complicated topic in the preservation field, but those are the exact kind of topics that we need to wrestle with if we want to innovate and push the profession forward. So I know that back in 2021, when I started working on this, there was like a real sense of validation in a space that was a little bit touch and go, depending on who you're talking to. And I think it's just so wonderful to see that in just 5 short years, like how those tides can change and using this fellowship as a real benchmark for that growth and being able to reference those projects and documents like throughout time is just a testament to the investment that this fellowship has in that kind of growth. So it's just a really, really special feature.
Thank you. Yes. And you all spoke to how it's impacted your careers. And what I'm hearing is so many of you are in a consulting role in these leadership roles, and almost like a subject matter expert role. People are coming to you for guidance and advice. And all have emphasized that important leadership development aspect of it. And I'm curious with the mentorship component that really focuses on that. It's not just about the project, but the mentorship. What was that experience like for you, or currently, as in Todd's case, how did you choose a mentor? How do you use that mentorship? Um, and what's that influence on your project, your career? Kind of a large question, but yeah, I'm curious with everybody. And Alicia, you raised your hand, so you get to go first.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'd like to start with saying that um, so Natalie, you play kind of a glue role. You kind of glue the agency, Preservation Maryland with the Harrison. So that's helpful, though you weren't necessarily a mentor. It started there for me with just that connectivity. And then Laura is here today, and she was there with me in 2022. And so the continuity of Laura going forward with building on her skill set that she's bringing along, was she already had an educate preservation education background. And so it was through her that I think I grew exponentially in my confidence and ability to even work with the rest of the mentors. Now, just having access to you, Harrison, I think was probably one of the most impactful things to me because um, you do have this wisdom that you have acquired over all of these years, but you're not just keeping it to yourself. You want to share it. And so that really felt good to me personally, is just having the access to you, although you supported us through this project as well. So that was good. And then the different mentors that we talk with, it just everybody has their own skill set and their strengths. And so having the scheduled opportunities, I can't remember if it was quarterly or more organically, but they were regular and we would meet with the larger panel. So there's just a lot of different people. But then I had my mentor who was a local person that I knew and met with regularly. So just so many different opportunities to share, but then learn also, which caused me to grow exponentially in my confidence as a leader and hone in on what my strong points are and how I wanted to move forward with my topic.
Yeah, I think the mentorship is something that often gets neglected or not even thought about so much, although indirectly we may find someone that we're working with who it, in essence becomes a mentor. But I think one of the ingredients that the fellowship needs to hone in a bit more on is that the enrichment of a mentor, and uh, and it's not only growth for you by having a mentor. What I have found out is that the mentor himself, herself, uh, gains an awful lot out of the process also as well. And I think that's something that could be contagious.
In a good
Yeah.
way. Yeah. Um, Todd, Chris, Stephanie, do you have any insights on your experience with that mentorship that you'd like to share?
I think I will just quickly say, like, to Harrison's point, like my mentor ended up being someone that I like had worked with like in and out of my profession, but never had the opportunity to like really sit in that space and explore the benefit of her longtime knowledge as well as the exchange from what was happening with my project and where I was located. Like she's a professor in Canada and I am a policy practitioner in San Antonio. Like, what a special way to have that exchange of knowledge in like a very purposeful and structured setting where when you're real people working real jobs, like it's really hard to pause and establish that kind of relationship. So I think like the mutual benefit is very real.
Yeah, and I'll share a bit about my mentor, Will Cook. I had known Will for years before I asked him to be my mentor for this fellowship. He went to the same law school that I did, and when I met him, I was in grad school, and he was in my current position, Senior Associate General Counsel at the National Trust for Historic Preservation. And I met Will when I was young, and I saw what I wanted to do with my law practice and my career. I saw an example from my very own law school that showed me how it could be done. And he was incredibly kind and generous to me, and still is, always has been over the years, and encouraging me along my path. So when it came time to pick a mentor for this fellowship, there was no question who I was going to choose. And Will did a great job, and he's now transitioned from the National Trust into private practice. But I still count him as a great friend, and we'll be on a legal panel together at the NAPC conference this summer. So still collaborating.
Nice. How nice.
And
It,
then
it,
I have to say, in full
yeah.
transparency, that when you bring AI to the conversation, people have a reaction. So everywhere, I always say, if you go to a party and you tell people you make neon, you will meet everybody at the party. If you go to a party and tell people you're working on an AI project, you're going to get an earful from a lot of people. And so it's been really difficult for me to find a mentor. People that do AI, like I reached out to all kinds of people in universities. I tracked down all kinds of leads saying I want this, and they were like, "No, that's not what we're interested in, right? We're not interested in that aspect of it. I'm not your mentor." There was a lot of and then in the preservation world, I'm just going to say it, I've met so much resistance in the preservation world locally, regardless of who I talk to about it. Even Discover Denver that's given us the data, they're like, it's not going to work. We're not interested in it, but we'll give you the data, and I was like, okay, well, you're going to rue the day, you know. And so I've relied heavily on Laura and the committee. Harrison, very lovely. He checks in with me, and so I've relied on them probably more than others did because I don't know why it's such a hot button. It's a tool and we got to understand how to use it. And, why not? So I've struggled with finding a mentor, and that isn't just like a pal to me. Even when I reached out to business leaders and said, "Can you mentor me in this?" They were like, "Yeah, no, that's really not what we do. We mentor people that are creating businesses." And so I've actually really struggled in that area. which may be a good thing. I'm going to be the expert in
Yeah,
AI
yeah,
preservation. I don't know.
yeah. I think there is something to a lot of the projects have that intersectionality with preservation and who do you go to for guidance in that intersection that's innovative and new, right? Well, I'm not seeing any questions in the Q&A, so if you have any, please pop them in. We're just 4 minutes to the hour. So I did want to round it out at least with some advice, and if we'll have time, we'll get to those at the end. I'm wondering from the fellows if they have any advice about the fellowship and to prospective applicants and what to think about. And Molly was able to share some, and I think it'll really speak to Harrison. Molly's advice was to choose a topic you're passionate about. It made the endeavor immediately enjoyable, and getting to vote time to something that she enjoyed, um, it made her excited and it felt like a gift. So I wonder, I'll go Brady Bunch style. And Todd, you're at the top. Do you have any advice for applicants?
So I believe I'm Greg Brady then. Um, no, so aside from applying more than once, don't be discouraged. I applied and then I reached out for feedback and it was lovely, the feedback that I got. And so I would say, even if you go, I'm not, my idea is not fully baked, be passionate. Like Alicia said, be passionate about it, send it in, and, maybe it's more done than you think. But if it's not, you'll get some really good tips on it. And then the second thing I would say, aside from being passionate about the project, the people that I'm working with or who helped kind of generate the idea of the project are lovely people to be with. And so, as you look at your project, who's going to be around you that's going to be involved with it? Because you're going to spend quite a bit of time eating a repes with them. So choose a project that you have a community that you love to be with, to work with. That would be another.
Thank you,
May I
Todd.
add, may I add something in here also to everyone? Is that as you're proceeding through your career and doing whatever it is you're doing, and you think back at the fellowship, if you could just send on any ideas that you or any suggestions for how we might improve this fellowship program, from infinite little details to broad scope kind of concepts. Because why not? Why not help each other on what we're doing and feel good about it? That's how I feel. Okay.
Thank you, Harrison.
So nice of you to participate.
Yes, thank you, Harrison. Um, Christopher, I'm wondering if you have any advice for applicants.
Try and find a need in the preservation world, things that people always ask for help with, and use the fellowship to become an expert at something that fills a need for the broader preservation movement. I think that's been the most valuable thing about this fellowship to me is the capacity it gave me to help people based on what I learned.
And
Nice.
Stephanie.
Crystal my answer. But it was seriously so true. I think like clearly identifying like a gap in preservation scholarship, or in my case, like preservation practice. And if there's something that like you see on the horizon, like AI, that like is an urgent thing that needs to be addressed by our field, I think this fellowship is such a great opportunity to really look into that. And I will echo the other fellows, like I have become a subject matter expert in this intersection, and I'm so thrilled about that. And it's been great to also like continue on that mentorship to pay it forward and build up future subject matter experts in those intersections so we can continue to catalyze that impact in that niche that we're working in. So that's what I would recommend is find the need and pursue it.
Thank you. And last but not least, Alicia, any advice for applicants?
Yes, I think you're seeing here that there are a lot of opportunities for involvement once you are a fellow. I know there's the podcast that Preservation Maryland interviewed me for, and just a number of opportunities such as this one where we can still come back and talk about our projects. So that's something you can do as much or as little public speaking events as you would like to. And some of my panelists also mentioned speaking at conferences about your topic. So that's something to be prepared for. And then to speak to Harrison's point of if there's some feedback on improvement, when he asked that, I kind of realized that this really feels good to get together with all of you. And maybe if there were an alumni group that you could have meet once a year or whenever. This kind of feels like it could be like that because we did meet a little bit in advance and say hello, but just something that keeps pulling us back in year after year to check in to see where we are in our careers.
Thank you so much, Alicia. Great advice from all of you. And we're just a minute after the hour, so I'll go ahead and close this out. But I want to thank everybody for joining and participating, taking the time out of your day to talk about your projects even more. And ideally, we'll have some of these again to Alicia's suggestion, and it'll be ongoing. And thank you to Harrison again for founding the fellowship. Um, Reminders that if you're interested in applying, our applications close on March 16th, and you could be one of these talking heads on the Brady Bunch screen in the future. And don't be discouraged, you can apply again. Thank you all so very much. Appreciate it.
Thank